Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. It's freaking cold out here. In fact, I'm actually going to put my hoodie up. That's how cold it is today. It's not only cold, but it's wind. It's got a good amount of wind this morning. I'm going to have some hot coffee here. Get my morning started. Hope you have something to get your morning started. Luden's got a really good coat. Goes from her toes to the tip of her head. She doesn't seem to mind this weather. Uh, so what can I talk about? It takes very little time. I want to talk about a political thing. The media is all about the rise of what they call popularism. Popularism. I know how to say it. I can say it in my head, but when it comes out of my mouth, it doesn't sound quite as good. Um, the idea behind every, everybody getting a little bit of the population in a popularism movement. Popularism movements, I've seen them lots of times in my life. The I'm not an expert in this, and this is why I wanted to talk about it because I know almost nothing. So it'll be short. I can get it back in where it's warm. The I think the intent of popularism is everybody needs to be taken care of. So we get a movement of people saying, yeah, the overall population is not being taken care of. I guess you compare that to individualism, the ability to get out there as an individual and make something special or uh, acquire things as an individual. You know, the U.S. has always been, I think, a little bit more individualistic than like most of the countries in Europe. I'm generalizing because there's a lot of differences between the countries in Europe. I mean, the difference between Poland and Belgium is enormous. But in general, um, in the U.S., there's a little bit more of you should work hard to get what you want. You shouldn't just be doing your bit. You should be going out and taking risks on your own. And the I think the present movement is looking at it a little bit differently than it has in the past because from what I can read, one of the problems is that they feel like back in the old days when they created, well, I shouldn't say create unions. Unions been around for a long time, but a lot of the unions really grew in power because of abuse. Um, and now people are feeling the same thing. It's not abuse like it was back then. Then it was safety concerns and long hours and stuff like that. Now it seems to be more along the lines of um, the people that are pushing the companies and stuff like that are not are using their ability to get rid of people too easily, and that's a little bit of abuse of power, and then they're hoarding a little bit of the uh, profits for themselves or for their shareholders and not distributing it out to the people that are creating or doing things. So I I unfortunately came from now I really see both sides of it. There's a lot of stuff that I've seen um, that makes me not like individualism and ability to mess with a bunch of people. Uh, but there are times in my life I ran into problems with populism. My mother had a tough time firing incompetent workers at her hospital. So the downside to that was even though that person needed a job and she needed money, she was working with people who needed care that were there for uh, uh, they were at the hospital because they were really ill and they needed to get back to health. And you know, so my mom had to get them fired, and I was told by a lot of her coworkers that it was really hard to fire people, but she would not ignore the uh, that. You know, and I also remember I worked at a company and they had some cables being built. It was actually subcontracted to another company. Had cables being built down in Mexico. And they said they went to Mexico to have the cables built, but when they got there, the protections for the workers was so strong that they would have people that came in that were drunk and they couldn't, they would tell them, you can't work if you're drunk. So they would lose that person, which kind of messed up their shifts and their schedules. And that guy would show up drunk another time and they'd fire him and then he'd come back and they'd have to give him his job back because he was in a rehab course and then he would come in drunk again. And they said he would come in drunk six, seven, 8 times before they could actually do anything about it. And they eventually lost $8 million down there because they shut down the factory because they couldn't get a reliable work status. So, I understand populism, but I also know that there are guidelines that we need to make sure services to customers and people are also uh, that people and businesses can take action to make customers get taken care of. Now, there are a lot of customers that are jerks and they shouldn't be taken care of, but ho uh, that's something that we got to work out. Well, there you go. See, I don't know Jack about popularism. So I only talked about it because I don't know anything. I'm done. I'm going to get inside where it's warm. You guys have a good day today. Uh, I'm going to try and stay warm. You and trying to stay warm. We'll talk to you later.